the location pin she forgot to turn off. The map told me before she did. My phone buzzed awake at 2:02 a.m. with the tender ruthlessness only software can manage, and there it was. A red pin pulsing in a place our feet had never been together, Harbor Line Hotel, with a caption the app wrote like a love note to itself. Elena arrived 1:47 a.m. She had forgotten to turn off our shared location, the feature we'd enabled 4 summers ago when she lost her wallet on a bus, and we decided trust and technology were the same kind of kindness. We were supposed to be ordinary. On Sundays, I iron pillowcases because flat cotton feels like a promise heat can keep. She sleeps with her palms splayed on my ribs like she's taking attendance of my breath. Our balcony forgives being too narrow for 2 chairs by letting us take turns and calling it choreography. When rain comes after midnight, we crack the window and let the city wash its face while we wash each other's. Her knee hooking behind my thigh with sailor's certainty, my mouth finding that nickel-bright coin beneath her collarbone, where breath admits it wants to be fire. But the pin pulsed on my palm like a second heart. I stared at it too long, as if starring could blink us back into a version of ourselves that didn't require cartography. Then I watched the blue dot that was me travel across the living room as I paced, until the app, delighted by the coincidence, drew a straight line between my insomnia and her new geography. Evidence is a hobby for men who want to be wrong. I began a folder called Weather, because what is a lie but a pattern you can map, and slipped screenshots inside it like I was pressing leaves. The pin, the time stamp, the breathlessness, a scarf folded with seminar posture, the French candle that pretends to be the moon, lune salé gone lopsided and shy under the couch, the doorbell clip where a stranger's jaw leaned too close to the lens and fogged it with confidence. The voice memo on her phone titled Later, 21 seconds of hiss, her laugh pressed through her teeth, and a man whispering my name like he'd borrowed it for rehearsal. She'd been showering with the light off, telling the mirror she had migraines. She'd been leaving dinners early, smiling with lips but not with teeth, glass refilled to the same polite halfway mark. Her phone learned a new chime at 12:06 and 12:11, like a smaller household had installed its own doorbell inside ours. London, she said. Their morning keeps trespassing on my midnight. I told myself silence was discipline. I mistook rehearsal for repair. At 2:28 a.m. the pin moved. Leaving Harbor Line, the caption chirped as if the map were proud of its verbs. It traveled 3 blocks, stopped, reversed, then settled. The address it settled on belonged to a building that believed in itself. Red brick with eyes like expensive windows, a staircase too clean to have learned humility. I watched until the app asked whether I wanted to notify when arrives again, and I pressed cancel because I didn't know whether that button belonged to mercy or to murder. She came home at dawn with rain in her hair and apology in her mouth. The door remembered her face. The apartment opened for her like an eager book. She kissed me with accurate affection, the kind that saves your body and bankrupts your faith. "You're up early," she said, setting the scarf down so gently I wanted to scream at the fabric for helping. "Didn't sleep," I said, which was true in all the unhelpful ways. We ate eggs without tasting them. Later, in bed, she crossed her knee behind my thigh and guided my hand beneath her shirt like someone switching on a lamp she trusts. We moved with the fluency of people who know their lines and still want applause. In the middle, her eyes went elsewhere and returned with apology penciled faint along the edge. Pencil erases clean if you don't press. I pressed anyway. The app waited in my pocket like a vein. "Who is Milo?" I asked, because bureaucracy steadies grief. "A client," she said too quickly. "He paints sky like it forgives him, doesn't use enough water, I told you this." You did, I said, and I believed you, which was not a question and also not one. She touched the thin place at my wrist, our old code. My skin sighed open out of habit. That's the problem with habits. They are too polite to check the guest list. One night later, I followed the pin. Harborline's lobby smelled like time and polished absolution. The elevators did arithmetic for people who mistake altitude for grace. At the bar, a man with a jawline that practiced anonymity raised two fingers without touching the air, and something clear obeyed. She arrived with the scarf I hate because it has manners. Her laughter poured into the space between his collar and the fact of him like she'd been carrying it all day for exactly this purpose. I left before she saw me. Outside, the river practiced being honest, black and blunt and unafraid of edges. Sunday wanted witnesses. Courage likes even numbers. I asked her brother and my friend Anton to come for pasta. The apartment smelled like garlic telling the truth. We laughed until the plates carried themselves. After, I mirrored the doorbell clip to the television. The rectangle did its neat geometry around the stranger's jaw, and the camera wrote his name across it with 94% confidence. Face recognized. Milo. We should talk privately, she said instantly. We will, I said, but I need witnesses that I didn't dream a welcome. They left us to be a room. She scrolled her phone like someone pulling a thorn without looking. The location history glowed at us, red pins coupled with the boring certainty of timestamps. The voice memo blinked like a bruise. The app suggested I share my ETA, and I wanted to laugh hard enough to wake every sleeping neighbor. I told myself it was a hallway, she said finally. Somewhere I could stand without a tour guide. I liked the echo. Is he married? Separating, she said. A daughter, 7. She spoke as if listing weather conditions. Do you love him? The word is small until it pulls up a chair. She looked at the ceiling crack that refuses to choose a direction. I love who I am when I stop narrating. With you, I started describing myself from outside, like I owed footnotes to every heat. He turns the placards around and says he believes the painting without the text. I loved us like architecture, she added, quiet. I wanted weather. We're going to separate, I said. The sentence felt like returning a library book 12 years late. She nodded with relief. I refused to rename cruelty. Do you want me to go now? I want the door to forget his face, I said. Pick a door, I'll take the other. She took the scarf. She left the candle. She wore the ring out of the apartment and took it off again in the hallway, thinking I didn't see. The plant on the landing forgave me when I slid the spare key back under its dirt. The basil on the sill, graceless, stubborn, decided to live. Green things forgive amateurs. Because endings itch, I switched the app setting to stop sharing location and watched as the blue circle around me shrank into a private weather system. I turned off notify when arrives and notify when leaves. I taught the doorbell only my face. I changed the lock code and did not write it anywhere she would recognize. For 3 nights the city practiced rain. I slept in the middle of the bed like an honest animal. On the 4th, I did the unkind thing and went where the pin had paused the longest. Red brick, windows that believed in themselves, a staircase too clean to have learned regret. He answered the door with a face that looked like the word appointment. Can I help you? He asked. I'm here to collect a map, I said, because pettiness likes metaphors. He did not smile. I was relieved. It saved me from doing the wrong thing in a way I could not have undone. I went home and put 2 chairs on the too narrow balcony and let one be empty without inventing who it belonged to. I ironed pillowcases because some promises keep themselves if you heat them right. I poured the last of Lune Salé into the sink and let the drain have its secrets. She texted once, "I'm sorry." Then again I was happy and greedy and afraid and sorry. I pressed my thumb to the thin place on my wrist and answered myself. Here, here, here. Because I am sentimental in ways carpenters distrust, I kept the screenshots. They live in a folder now renamed Currents. Sometimes I open it and watch the pins pulse on the past like a heart that isn't mine anymore. Most nights I don't. Most nights I let the map be a quiet thing. One evening, Anton brought over oranges and we ate them over the sink because some rooms deserve to be simple. "You look different," he said, "like you've stopped explaining." "I'm practicing," I said, "silence that isn't surrender." Because I owed myself one extravagant mercy, I booked a night at Harbor Line, room that had never known my name. The lobby smelled like thyme and solved rain. The elevator did arithmetic for no one in particular. The ceiling in 417 had a mirror. Hotels apologize for everything else with angles you won't get at home. I lay there and ran inventory. Mouth, still mine. Hands, good at questions. Heart, punctual, exhausting. I slept. In the morning, I told the survey that the lighting was accurate and the ceiling was rude. They comped the minibar as if forgiveness were a receipt. Back in my apartment, the drawer closed all the way. The basil set out a new leaf the shape of a small, stubborn hand. I taught the phone not to ask me who I wanted to notify. I taught the doorbell not to learn any new faces. The balcony learned how to hold one person without apology. If there is a lesson in pins, it is this. Love is not a map, and if it is, you should be the one holding it. If there is a lesson in rooms, it is this. Some doors are too polite to keep your secrets for you. If there is a lesson in bodies, it is this. You can press your thumb to the thin place on your wrist and answer yourself, and it will count. When rain comes after midnight, I still crack the window to let the city wash its face. I listen to the air move through what remains and refuses to leave. I lie down in the middle of the bed and say my name like a promise I know how to keep. The app asks me if I want to share my location. I tell it no. I know where I am. For the first time in months, that is enough.